Great. I'm wondering as we're giving a minute or so more for more attendees, if we could start by chatting in our names and where we're located. I imagine most of us know each other, but it might be a good reminder to who we all are. So again, chatting our names and where we are located. And Kate, if you are able, you're welcome to share aloud as well, since I believe you were just on the phone. Great. Hi, Pam. Hi, Candace. Hi, Marie. Hi, Estrus.
Hi.
Great. I think this might be our group for today. We have a few other folks that weren't able to join us, but we'll be recording the call for them. And all of that to say that this is really an opportunity for us to get grounded in what our work will look like from May to July, and sort of come up with decision-making processes and group norms that we can work towards the rest of our time together. And then moving forward, we'll find additional times for us to meet to really get into the work and the content of what we'll be developing. So as you can see, we're all part of the Developing a CHILA-Like Experience Workgroup, so welcome. We'll spend the first 5 minutes or so, or next 5 minutes, in a reflection. We'll then do some context setting and talk a little bit about what is happening from May to July as a reminder. Share a little bit about the different roles that we all represent here on the call. Review a draft work plan and provide feedback and thoughts and ideas, questions, and discuss a little bit about the cadence of our meetings. And then we'll have an opportunity for us to review and come up with some norms for how we'll work together and make decisions as we continue our work. And then save some time at the end to schedule our next meeting. And my goal is that we'll actually schedule a regular time for us all to meet so that we can sort of get ahead of potential scheduling challenges. And if that's not possible, we'll at least schedule our next meeting. Any questions or additions to the agenda? Great. So here's our reflection for today. Would someone like to read it aloud?
Sure, I will, Liz. It's Candace.
Thanks, Candace.
It's not about how much you do, but how much love you put into what you do that counts. Mother Teresa.
Thank you, Candace. So we'll give a few minutes for folks to reflect and chat in their thoughts. And Kate, I know you're on the phone, so feel free when you're ready to also share aloud your thoughts as well.
Liz, I'm sorry, it's Amy. Could someone repeat that for me, please?
Of course. The reflection is by Mother Teresa, and it says, "It's not about how much you do, but how much love you put into what you do that counts." And Amy, I think you might be my call-in user. When I asked earlier if it was Kate, I couldn't hear the response.
So I made the assumption it was. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I am. Yeah, it's fine. I'm sitting in the the waiting room at the hospital with my daughter. So,
Thank you for letting us know. And if at any point you need to hop off, please do so to care for yourself and your daughter.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't care to chime in on my thoughts of that quickly. I think to me, it's you get out of something what you put into it. So no matter how small of a project or something it is that you think that you're doing, if you give it your all, then I think you can be proud of what you're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing, Amy. I appreciate it. I give a couple more moments for folks to chat in, and for those on the phone, I'll read those aloud as well. And then if others would like to share aloud also, please feel free to do so. See, Marie wrote that she thinks that when we put love individually, we get love back from others. So it becomes not just additive, but love can grow exponentially. Thank you, Marie. That's very poetic. I love it. Pam wrote, to display a little bit of love can go a long way. And Ashley said, I think for me, impact doesn't always mean it has to be a lot of people. You can have a great impact on just a few, not to always focus. Estes wrote, powerfully true and soberingly rare in our society. Candace shared that she feels it is speaking to quality over quantity, but on a deeper level. We get such better results when we pour ourselves into the work, instead of just trying to do every little bit task that comes our way, but doesn't spark the fire in our belly. No one wants to follow that. We want to follow the person who is living and breathing what we do. That's great. Would anyone like to share aloud as well their reflection? Okay. I was also thinking on similar lines that one of my goals for this period of May through July is for us to create an implementation guide, change package, whatever we decide to make that feels meaningful to us and that we think would be meaningful to others, and that we are focusing sort of more on the quality than on the quantity, because I imagine there are many things that we can write about during this time. Great. Well, thank you so much for reflecting with me. So I wanted to spend a few minutes, and I am going to quickly go out of presentation mode just so I can separate out some of the resources I wanted to share as links as well. So I apologize for the change. I wanted to share with you all a link sort of the majority of the different change packages and implementation guides and other components of this work that we're doing. I recognize that some of you are in more than one work group, so you might also be doing some of the work on these materials, and thought it might be a good way of sort of sharing generally how this all might connect together in the scope of sort of what we're hoping to put together at the end of July. And generally speaking, the developing a CHILA-Like experience is really an opportunity for us to share with the larger audience how to kind of recreate or implement something that is similar to what we've done before in CHILA, and sort of capture the essence of what a CHILA is and practical ways to move that forward. That's like a very general overview, intentionally, because we'll really be building out the scope of that together, and with our topic leads, who are Marie, Estrus, Hannah, and myself. And so wanted to share a little bit about the overall sort of resources, because there are definitely opportunities to connect with other groups as well who are doing work, because there is quite a bit of overlap as well. I'm going to pause here and give folks an opportunity to take a look at the resources, and also ask any questions that come up as you are doing so.
Liz, this is Marie. I just got a message about asking permission to get into the Google Sheets. I think it's because my my Google account is different from my IHI one. Could you give me permission real quick, or is that a hassle?
Of course. No, it's not at all. So I just made the link, hopefully, I'm going to rechat it in, editable, but just by clicking on it. So that one's a quick fix. And then, Marie, I can give you, or share the folder with you overall to your Gmail account if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'm going to write that down. I'll do that after the call.
Okay.
Yay. Thanks, Candace. I'm glad it works.
Yeah, mine too. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. And as you're acclimating and familiarizing yourselves to the various resources, you'll see that for the type of resource, right now it says change package or implementation guide. That's really up to this work group to decide what makes the most sense. And so that is why it is intentionally includes both of those options in there. And I imagine in future meetings we can have a conversation about what sort of the difference of those two materials might be, and mostly wanted to lift that up today. Any questions as you're taking a look at the overall material list?
Well, Liz, this is Marie. So just following up on your comment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to us to decide. I think you said what is the best, what kind of format. But are there like sort of choices of formats? So in other words, how standardized or not would any of these resources be? So are there templates, 3 or 4 different templates that we might pick from, or we're just open to creating whatever we think makes the most sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we'll go over it, kind of more of the general templates ideas during the call on Wednesday with the larger cohort of folks that are continuing on in May and July. And so I don't have specifics yet, but I would say that we are putting together templates because where possible, we would like to maintain some level of consistency. And we also are leaving it a little open as well. So if for example, we're putting together templates for like a change package, an implementation guide, and let's say this work group decides they want to do something completely different. I think there are opportunities then for us to create a template for that as well, and think creatively about that. So even outside of sort of what we are thinking, there are still options for creating more standard materials. And so I guess it's a both and. So we do want
Yeah.
to give the option to the group, but we will be generally creating more standard templates so that, you know, it's generally uniform.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Of course. Any other questions?
Yeah, because one thing that would be really very cool is to combine, you know, some type of guide, but then also like have like videos that might be embedded in it. I mean, one of the things that we've used over the years when we've trained people in the Breakthrough Series collaborative model is we do have, you know, like a video of what it looks like, you know, and I don't know whether there's videos that people have made of their scale-up Chilas or that we might have from the national Chilas, but you know, things like that might be kind of fun to think about.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I just wrote that down in the chat to keep for later, and I think that's a great idea. And I think some folks, for example, are thinking about like, oh, you know, and I don't know if this would be the most appropriate place, but thinking about also the mediums where things will live. Is it a document like in Word or in a PDF that's linked to a website or somewhere else? Is it a live stories? I think we can think about that as well.
Yeah.
Great. All of that to say, I think the only thing that we've really committed to is that by July 31st of this year, so in 2.5 months, we'll have something ready to share kind of with a broader audience and also as part of our short-term grant with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And so outside of that, there really is some flexibility on what the scope and what the focus is for our developing a CHILA-like experience material. And that really is up to the group, and we'll see later in the work plan. I think I still need to include it, but an idea we had as well was sort of having a checkpoint in June to sort of see like where we were with our scope and if we felt like what we had taken on was reasonable and how we might adjust accordingly, because we do want to be respectful of folks' time. We recognize that you know, for staff and faculty, our time has generally gone down, and also that folks that are, you know, contributing their time from the Scale communities as well, like you're contributing a certain amount of hours, and we really do want to be respectful of that. So thinking about the quality aspect within the amount of time that we have available to us. And that's another component that we really can decide together on what that scope will look like. And then finally, we do have a meeting on Wednesday that will be an opportunity for us to connect with the larger group of individuals that are participating. And we will record it. We recognize that not everyone is able to attend for folks to review later on as well. But just wanted to lift that up. BC, our project assistant, sent out an invite last week. And if you have not received it, please let me know and I will forward it along to you. Great, so here is a set of roles that all of us hold in various ways, and I just wanted to lift that up and share because I know that each of us has sort of a different role, which also influences the amount of time that we might have to contribute to the project. So as I mentioned before, Marie, Estrus, Hannah, and myself are really on point for the work group leads. I'm also helping project manage this work group, and so we'll be supporting sort of tracking to our deadlines and doing things like making sure we have templates available to us to work in, and sort of managing the consistency across the work groups. And then we also, you know, folks on the phone also have different levels of commitment to this work group. So we have folks that have up to 30 hours over the next 3 months and have sort of the writer role, folks for up to 20 hours and then 10 hours. And so wanted to bring this to everyone really as an opportunity to provide feedback because we, as I mentioned before, we do want to be respectful of people's time and also want to be realistic. And, you know, for example, if there's someone who is in the, or a, you know, an individual who's in the reviewer role for 10 hours over 3 months and is really interested in writing, actually, you know, as long as you feel like you are able to do that in the amount that time you have allocated, that could work as well, and didn't want to be limiting in that way either. So this is a real, and I can even chat, I'll chat in the slides as well, opportunity for you all to sort of provide feedback on what I have shared on this slide. If you have any suggested edits or ways that we could clarify roles, I'm very open to that. And I will pause here again for questions, suggestions. If you have any edits, you can speak them out, chat them in, or add them as a comment directly into the slides through the comment feature up here. Yes, I'm happy to share a list of, I have that handy in an Excel spreadsheet, so I can send an email out to folks after this call with who is currently in which roles. Is that okay, Marie, time-wise?
Oh, yeah, but that's fine, Liz. Thanks. Just,
Great.
yeah, I think it'd just be helpful for all of us to get a sense. I mean, you know, you mentioned what yours and Hannah and Esther's and mine is, but I'm wondering about others just in terms of, so we'll know sort of how many, you know, how many potential writers there are, how many potential contributors, et cetera.
Yeah, thank you. And I wonder, as for process even, maybe maybe I could send that out in the notes with as a Google document so that folks that are sort of like a, for example, a contributor that would like to support the writing component with their time allocation can provide that feedback there as well. I don't know how that sounds for folks. And if you agree with that, if you could, I actually don't usually use the different symbols on Zoom. I'm still learning my way through this. But if you're able, in the annotate, I believe there's an option. Let's see here.
Oh, yeah. If you click on, right, you click on participants and then.
Oh, yes. If you click, thank you, Marie. That way you said, oh, yeah. And and in reality, you know way more than I do.
Well, no, I was just guessing. I knew it was here someplace.
Great. So, if you click on participants and you're in agreement that I can send out sort of folks' roles in a Google document for everyone to provide their thoughts and feedback on, could you please put a green check next to your name? If you are not in agreement, could you put a red X next to your name? And then for folks on the phone, feel free to share aloud what your thoughts are.
This is Kate, green check.
Great, thanks, Kate. Amy, you might be busy, so no worries if you're not able to share aloud. Looks like we have almost the majority.
I'm on here, but I just leave it on mute and listening, and I will send emails and reply to everything. It's just crazy in here.
Okay, sounds great. And I see Estrus wrote green check as well. Thank you, Amy. Great, so I will follow up to this call with that information. This might, kind of thinking about that same process, this might be a similar process as well, but did want to also share an overall timeline that we had here, and I'm chatting that in. I recognize that, well, timeline/work plan, that this might not give folks enough time to sort of react and respond, but wanted to give you an idea of where we were going with this. One of the components that I would like to add is like a touch point, like a mid touch point, as I mentioned, for us to sort of revisit the scope of work and see if it still feels feasible. And you'll see, the general idea of having bi-weekly check-ins with this team, which we can talk more about that later and decide on at the appropriate cadence for us. We will also have sort of, currently we have like bi-weekly or monthly larger meetings, like the one on Wednesday, which we were thinking could be like a regular touch point for across the work groups, especially for the work group leads and for others who are interested in attending, which we'll talk more about on Wednesday as well. So that's what you'll see in row 10. I'll pull it over here as well. Also, per Marie's question, which was very timely, as you'll see in row 11, Chelsea's going to, once we figured out sort of the structure across the work groups of how we want to present this information, Chelsea will be working to put together sort of the branding for the templates to make sure that it's consistent across the various materials that we create before July 31st. Let's see, what else is here? Over the next few weeks, we'll be chatting about the content as well, and what we'd like to work on in row 15. And some of this is more for our internal implementation team to reference as well, and we figured it might be helpful for everyone to sort of know what's going on across the board, to have an idea of sort of why certain deadlines are the way they are. This is also something
So
that
Liz,
we can, yes.
sorry. So what
No, of
is
course.
Savannah? What is
Oh,
Savannah?
yes, of course. So I can give you my understanding. It's actually kind of exciting. It's something that we've been working towards a long time. We called it Connect and Share before, but really an opportunity for us to connect a lot of our platforms so that there aren't so many for 100 million healthier lives. And part of that is also updating where our website lives. So my understanding is the content itself for the overall website for 100 million healthier lives will stay the same or be very similar, but where it lives will be on Savannah, just to sort of help maintain consistency. And something that we've done in the past for Skill 1.0, for example, which Marie, you were like an active part of as well, was the updating the website to make it sort of, to let folks know like, oh, we've moved from this phase to this phase since the skill work is included on there. And we sometimes get questions of like, oh, tell us more about Skill 2.0 or what have you. So we're not doing like a larger update and really uploading the materials until after Savannah has been launched in August, because that will be moving from the current website. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Liz. And I'm sure there's there's a lot more detail. But I mean, so right now the 100 million lives on, well, I don't
It's
know.
on a different platform. I'm
Where
actually
does
not sure either. That's a little bit, I'm less involved in sort of the day-to-day of the workings
That's
of the
okay.
website, but it lives somewhere else and it will be migrated to Savannah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's why the Savannah piece is relevant to us, as we're thinking about sort of where these materials will live.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I trust all the people that are doing that, to all that under the hood stuff. We just need to be able to use it, so that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this might, yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this is helpful for everyone to have access to or to look at, and we figured it might be. And also if it's sort of, if some of these more like granular pieces that are like on the larger scope are confusing, we can also, this is our sort of like individual work plan for developing a CHILA-Like experience. I made a copy so we can also edit that and change that as well. Any other questions or initial thoughts or ideas of things to add? I'll also be sending this out in our notes, and so folks can sort of give their thoughts and ideas via email as well. I guess one last piece I would add is the glossary of terms. We'll talk a little bit more about this on Wednesday, but in our last sort of iteration from Scale 1.0, we added a glossary of terms at the end of each of our materials because we recognize that, as you all know, very familiar with, that we use a lot of jargon. So just sort of as something for our group to be aware of as we're transitioning and putting materials together, to sort of flag terms that we think might be helpful to include in the overall glossary of terms. And so that's what sort of the row 21 is referring to as well. Great, so I'm going to transition for now. And as I mentioned, as with the roles and responsibilities, this is definitely not the only opportunity to provide feedback, and really wanted to just take some time to review it as a larger group. All right, so the next piece we'll chat about for the next 15 or so minutes is around norms for our work group and thinking about how we will continue to work together moving forward, as well as on the next slide, decision making. So, you know, as we're making decisions, for example, about scope of work and process, how will we determine if a decision has been made? So to get us started, I had chatted in the link to the slides as well. And I'm also including the 100 million Healthier Lives touchstones, which are linked in there because I think they're a really great place to start and to really think about as we do our work together. And wanted to see if folks had anything that they would like to add or lift up specifically for this work group. And if so, feel free to either chat that in or add it directly into the slide itself. And I had included 2 already. I think for me at least, it feels really important that we have you know, shared decision making moving forward, which also relates to how we will make our decisions on the next slide. And then also regular opportunities for us to check in on our overall workload and what we feel like is possible for us to complete by July 31st. And I'll give folks a few minutes to take a look at the touchstones and think about if there are any other norms that you'd like to propose. Great, I see Marie added in holding tension in life-giving ways will be important. And she shared that she already is feeling stressed about completing this within the timeline. And I understand that. And Kate chatted in, allow your ideas to be developed further by others. I'll put those both in the slides as well. Fully developed, yeah. Any other ideas for norms? They could be included in our touchstones and also could be from other norms that you've used in the past or ones that you think would be helpful to include. Thank you, Marie. I see you've chatted in personal voice and agency, and that you'd really like the product to really reflect the experience of the skilled communities in the work group. Great. So again, this isn't the only opportunity to add in norms. And before we transition, I wanted to do a quick check. I've included the norms that have come up so far on the slides, and also wanted to make sure that we feel good about the norms that we've included so far and are in agreement. So again, using our trusty little emojis, if you are comfortable with all of the norms that are here, please put up a green check. If you have a question or are uncomfortable with at least one of the norms, please put up a red X, and we will have an opportunity to sort of hear from you and any concerns that you might have.
This is Pam. I'm going to say green check. I'm having some computer issues, so green check.
Great, thanks Pam, I appreciate it. And I see Estrus also chatted in green check as well. Great. Thank you all very much. Awesome. And I promise that the next meeting, it will not be me talking so much. And I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you for your patience and for bearing with me. Great. So the other piece that I felt like was important to discuss, especially as we're thinking about the timeline we have and decisions that we will likely need to make and sort of what to include and what not to include in our product, how to best make decisions. So I've included a few different options for, decision making, and also these are not exhaustive. So there definitely are other ways that we could make our decisions moving forward. So the three that I included were, and yes, Marie, I agree about adding norms at the next call. I think that's a great idea. So the three that I included were consensus, which is basically we're all in agreement before we move forward on a decision. So all of us have our green checks and we're ready to go. Majority, which would be that we would decide on a certain amount of individuals, that like a certain percentage or fraction that we're comfortable with. So it could be like 51% in majority. It could be 75% or 3/4. I think that's up to us. And then executive would be deferring to the leads or others to make the decisions ultimately. So I did want to, before sort of thinking a little bit more about what we think would be best, I wanted to see if there were any other ideas or options for how we could make decisions before we vote on how we will make decisions. Or questions or thoughts. That's a good point, Marie. Marie wrote, it may depend on what we are deciding about.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, okay, so the group could be in consensus that, you know, we really need like another month to finish this, and of course that would be an executive decision that no, we can't have another month. That's just a kind of a facetious example, but you know, or that we want to use a completely different template or something, you know. So there's going to be some things I think that, you know, we'll want to be standardized. We'll want to make sure that we're, creating something that is going to meet the requirements of the contract, I guess. So that, I don't know, I was just thinking, so there might be things that are perhaps, and in terms of content, you know, maybe there'd be some things that would be, I don't know, more crucial or more important or, you know, than others. And so we might want to be flexible about how we make decisions based on what it is we're deciding about. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think mainly we want to make sure that we hear everybody's opinion, and then it's not quite consensus, but I think it's sort of the I don't know, kind of the will of the group or the something. Maybe there's another one in there.
Yeah, those are really great points, Marie. And I'm thinking on them.
Yeah.
As far as sort of like our parameters or boundaries, I'm happy to put something together, like if that would be helpful for our next meeting, more explicitly outlining like these are the things that we can't move. So like the deadline of July 31st, unfortunately, is not, of having something by July 31st is not something we can move. Or something somewhat polished, but maybe like, you know, the scope of the work or like what we choose to work on during that period, we can move. So being a little bit, I wonder if it would be helpful for me to share more explicitly, like where there is and there is not wiggle room, so to speak, to sort of help facilitate the conversation around like how would we make decisions for things that we do as a group have control over.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful. Yeah, I'm just thinking, just even a statement of, you know, what it is that we've promised Robert Wood Johnson, you know, within this time period. I don't know, and maybe what you've given us in terms of the different work groups is everything that there is. But that's, you know, yeah, I think that would be helpful to let us know what the parameters are.
Great. Oops. Any other thoughts or ideas? And maybe this decision on how we will make decisions is a little preemptive as well. So I'm comfortable tabling this also, if that feels better.
Yeah, this is Marie. So I think one thing that may come up, and it may be in the realm of decisions, but just in terms of how we'll communicate with each other, and maybe this is coming, Liz, in another slide. I haven't looked ahead, but, you know, say there's like, you know, 5 of us on a call and we're talking about something and decide to move forward, then, you know, making sure that if it's something, you know, like super important, that others on the call, others in the work group who weren't able to be with us on the call, you know, have some input or have make sure that they have a chance to provide their view as well. So I think part of this is, you know, how we'll communicate, and but if it's on Google Docs, everybody can see everything, right?
Yes, theoretically, unless of course there are permission challenges, which sometimes happen,
Right,
unfortunately.
right.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really important point, Marie. Thank you for lifting that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at times, yeah, sort of to your point around sort of the flexibility maybe of making decisions, I think we'll probably have to be somewhat adaptive to how we communicate with other folks as well, depending on what it is that we're deciding on. I also see that Kate wrote that she thinks a quick check-in on these items at the beginning of the next call would be helpful because we may want to adjust these as we work together. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great suggestion. So yeah, I think again, we can revisit this at the next call, if that sounds right to folks, and maybe give some more thought on what makes the most sense for our work group, and consider whether it makes, an adaptive approach, like Marie said, might fit us best, but we might decide that we want to do something a little bit more concrete as well. So I will send them the follow-up as well. Sorry for in advance for all of the next steps. Great. So this was, we've gone through a lot. So I want to thank you all for your patience and for staying with me through the call. I'm wondering if we could take a few minutes before hopping off to pull up our calendars and really share what our availability might look like in the next couple of weeks. Could even be something as simple as, I recognize there are quite a few of us on the call, so for each of us to go through and say, for example, like, this works, this doesn't work. It might be something like chatting in like your top 5 days and times that work best for you next week and the following week, to get something down on the calendars, and I can sort of comb through and see where there might be overlap. And I'm also open to other ideas for how to best accommodate our calendars. Yes, Estrus. That is the doodle scheduler. I agree. That is a great idea. My concern is, though, folks don't always fill it out. And so if we do have an opportunity to do this on the call, that would be super helpful just to get something on the books. And if we'd rather, do it via doodle and follow up, I'm happy to put something together. I'm able to see Marie and my calendar because we're both based here at IHI. So I can sort of look at our availability and send that out. And I would love for folks' support in filling that out quickly so that we can get something scheduled. Yes, I'm happy to throw out some dates, Candace. I'm going to pull up Marie's calendar as well, just so I can take a peek. So I guess I'll read aloud some dates, and if that works for you, if you could, again, use the green check, that would be super helpful. Let's see here. All right. Between 10 and 11 Eastern time on Wednesday, May 22nd. If that works for you, please put up a green check.
I'm sorry, Liz. Did you say Wednesday, May 22nd at 10?
Yes, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Okay, I'm going to check my calendar real fast.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, that does not work for Candace. No worries. How about on Thursday, the 23rd from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern?
I know that I can't on the 23rd. But I can get notes if it works for everybody else.
Just taking a look here, see if there are any others. Okay. I will, all of that to say, I will send out a doodle poll because I'm seeing, also we're working around some vacations as well. So I want to find time that works for most of us. And I'm realizing also that not everyone was able to join this call. So it would require sort of reaching out to folks virtually as well. If I send that today in the notes, do you think it would be possible for folks to fill it out by end of the day tomorrow, just so I can move the scheduling forward? Great.
Green check.
Thank you. I appreciate your help. Awesome. So I'll put something together and shoot it out with the notes and the other next steps that we established. Great. And before we hop off, any other questions, comments, concerns?
So Liz, this is Marie. Did you say, sorry for the noise,
No
did you
worries.
say that there's a folder, is there a Google folder for each of the work groups?
Yes. I'll be
And
sharing
you're
that
going to
with you
send that?
all. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would like to take a look at, and I'm not sure where it is or whether it's maybe in this folder already, is I know that there was a meeting where we did a critical moments, what we call it, review of CHILAs throughout the scale 1.0 and 2.0, and I think there were some folks from the scale communities on that, but a lot I think a lot of folks weren't, and it would be I wasn't able to stay on for the whole time, and so I would love to see what came out of that, just in terms, so that we can begin to think about, well, what are the kind of key things that we might want to think about as being important to put in, this document or this whatever it is that we're creating. That might be one reason it might be super helpful for everybody to have access to.
Totally. I absolutely agree. And another resource, so it's not yet in the folder, but I'll be putting it in the folder today and tomorrow. I'll also be putting in like other information that we've gotten about CHILA. So our evaluation team sort of synthesizes the end of evaluations for each of the CHILAs. So the information we have on that as well. And we'll do sort of a sweep of what we have available to us, so that maybe during our next call that could be something that we look at
Great.
together. Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. That was a great question. Any other questions, thoughts? Awesome. So you will be hearing from me shortly. And yes, thank you, Candace. It's really nice to hear from you all, and I'm hoping to hear from you more the next meeting as well. And thanks for participating. And yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing to work together. Have a great rest of your afternoons.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.